Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of First Corinthians, the 11th chapter. And as it says here, Christian order. And in here, once again, Paul addresses certain situations that were going on here in the church, right? Dealing with how they were behaving amongst themselves, the divisions and being out of order, eating of the Passover unworthily, things that they needed to tighten up and polish, because it wasn't conducive behavior to believers, right? In Yahweh Shai. So this is 1 Corinthians 11:1. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. Now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. So he's saying here, I'm giving you props, right? Because you remembered me, and there are things that ordinances, right? Certain ways and instructions that I left you that you keep. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is God. So here he lists out the order, right? You have the Most High, and then Yahweh Shai, which is Hamashiach, and then you have the man, and then you have the woman. That's the proper order. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. So as Paul's letting you know here, when you're praying or prophesying, you want to have your head uncovered. Okay, now this is that there may be cases where this is not always possible, right? Maybe you're in a certain situation, something is going on, and your head just happens to be covered. Your hands are on the wheel. I don't know, something's happening, right? It doesn't mean you stop. You're in immediate danger, or something is going on, and you have to say a prayer. But you're like, oh wait, no, I got my hoodie on, or something is on my head, and I can't take it off right now because my hands are not available, so I can't pray. No, you can still pray. But the point that he's making here is, generally speaking, when you're praying as a man or prophesying, you ought to have your head uncovered. Verse 5, but every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head. For that is even all one as if she were shaven. So here he's saying the dishonor, right? That the level or the equivalence of a woman having her head uncovered when she prays or prophesieth is as though she had her head shaved. You see that shame and dishonor that would be onto a woman? That's what it's like if she's praying with her head uncovered. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn, that is, to have her hair shaved or cut off, or cut down. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. So he's saying here, well, it's all in the same, right? It's the equivalent of having your hair cut short or shaved. So if you don't want to have your head covered, then you might as well have it shaved off, because it's one and the same thing. That's like the equivalent of the kind of dishonor or shame that it brings. And if that's not what you want, then keep your head covered when you're doing these things. Verse 7, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. Right, because the head of the man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. So let's look at this in the NLT. And as you can see in most of these other translations, right, even the NKJV, for man is not from woman, but woman from man. For the first man, NLT, didn't come from woman, but the first woman came from man. Now, keep in mind that we understand the mystery of the creation, right? The story and how it actually breaks down. But the allegory of it, okay, is what Paul is using here, right? How it says that of man, came, like the Lord took woman from man. That's the point that he's making here. Although we understand, the the actual symbolic meaning of that. But he's saying here, he's making a point that the man is first. Okay, God created and formed the man first, and then the woman. So the man didn't come of the woman, but the woman of the man. And that's why the proper order is the head of the woman is the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. When you go back to Genesis, the Lord said that, right? It is not good that man should be alone. Let me make him and help me. That's why the woman was created. For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. Let's read this in the NLT. For this reason, and because the angels are watching, a woman should wear a covering on her head to show she is under authority. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. So even though, as it says here, the man was first and the woman after, and they have different roles, they're still, interdependent on each other, right? The Lord made us have separate roles, but it's through the union of a man and woman that life comes forth, right? So, but among the Lord's people, women are not independent of men, and men are not independent of women. For as the woman is of the man, even so the man also by the woman, but all things of God. So even though the beginning started with a woman coming from the man, you still, as the process of reproduction was instituted, you still have that interdependence on both parties to have anything come forth, right? Be it man or woman. So it says here, NLT, for although the first woman came from man, every other man was born from a woman, and everything comes from God. So that's why he mentioned above, right, that nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man. Judge in yourselves. Is it calmly that a woman pray to God uncovered? So with that being said, I'll let you be the judge. Is it a good thing that a woman should be praying with her head uncovered? Doth not even nature teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? Because that was another thing that they would, another custom or style, you could say, that they had back then. Like today, right? You got people that walk around with man buns. You see that a lot with like Northern Kingdom Israelites. They'll have like the long hair, shave the sides, they'll tie it up or whatnot. But if you have a man whose stature is not that like that of a man, and they're not dressed a certain way, and they're standing, facing opposite from you, and they have that long hair, you might confuse them for a woman. That's why Paul is saying here, it's against nature. It's not a natural thing, right? The appearance of a man should be very distinct from that of a woman. It is a shame unto him. Right? Verse 14 again, doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. Right? So a hair, when you look at a woman's hair, it covers her head, right? And it's a glory. When you look at women with like nice, long, beautiful hair, it complements them. Why do you think women go and buy wigs and weaves and all these different things? Because they want to have that look. For those that have trouble, growing, hair, they still want to have that look because it is their glory. But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. So if anybody has a problem with this, well, I don't know what to tell you, buddy, NLT. But if anyone wants to argue about this, I simply say that we have no other custom than this, and neither do God's other churches. They ain't no compromising this, okay? This is how it is in all the churches. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not. So he's saying now concerning the next things that I'm going to speak about, I don't praise you concerning these things because it's you guys are going off. It's not praiseworthy behavior. That ye come together not for the better, but for the worse, right? So when you are gathered together, right? When you have gatherings, it's not good. It's all right. It's not for the better. It's negative things that come out of it, at least that I'm hearing. For first of all, when ye come together in the church, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. Right. So when you come together to join, there's this like sectism, or there's still dissension, there's still this spirit of division amongst you. And Paul is saying, yeah, and I partly believe that. For there must be also heresies among you, which is going to that word heresies. It says here the act of taking a body of men following their own tenets, sect, or party, right? Dissensions arising from diversity of opinions and aims, which goes back to that point that Paul was making about divisions. So, for there must also be heresies among you, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you. And basically, what he's saying in verse 19 is, when it comes to like the heresies or the divisions, inevitably these things rise. But when they do, they expose, right, who is actually genuine, right, who is genuinely faithful and who is acting selfishly, right, and it shows forth based on how it's handled those that are actually approved among you. And sometimes the Most High will do that, right? He'll stir up situations and events to test and try people, but also to show that, right, based on how certain individuals either rise to the occasion, right, or handle certain situations. Verse 20, when ye come together, therefore, into one place, this is not to eat the Lord's Supper. NLT, where you at? When you meet together, you are not really interested in the Lord's Supper. For in eating, everyone taketh before other his own supper, and one is hungry and another is drunken. For some of you hurry to eat your own meal without sharing with others. As a result, some go hungry while others get drunk. And you can imagine just the sight of that, right? It's just completely out of order. Okay, it's not orderly, it's not brotherly, it's not becoming of a church of God. What? Have ye not houses to eat and to drink in? Or despise ye the church of God, and shame them that have not? What shall I say unto you? Shall I praise you in this thing? Or in this? I praise you not. NLT, what? Don't you have your own homes for eating and drinking? Or do you really want to disgrace God's church and shame the poor? What am I supposed to say? Do you want me to praise you? Well, I certainly will not praise you for this, because then you had situations where, like when you read about the in the book of Acts about the church, when you read in the book of Acts about the church, you had the case where they would sell their belongings, and then it would be split amongst everybody to make sure that everybody was good. But here, as the Apostle Paul is saying, you guys are doing the complete opposite. You have some that are less fortunate, and so instead of being fair with everything, some wouldn't get some, because some would come there and they would eat it quick, and he's going to say that as he continues to go on in the points he's addressing. So it says here, for I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahushua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. So here he's saying here that whatever it is that I'm telling you, these are things that I received of the Lord, right? Because Paul wasn't there. The thing he's about to describe, he wasn't there when that actually happened, but it was revealed to him that the same night when the Lord was betrayed, he took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. And that's why when we keep our Passover, we keep it in remembrance of Yahushua. After the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as often as ye drink it in remembrance of me. See, so when we keep the Passover, it's with Yahushua in mind. Okay, as we say, we keep Yahushua's Passover. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do shew the Lord's death till he come. NLT, for every time you eat this bread and drink this cup, You are announcing the Lord's death until he comes again. So, verse 27, wherefore whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. Because what's going to happen is, if you are unworthy, like carnally you're eating it, but spiritually you're off, right? You're unworthy in the spirit. You're not living in Yahushai according to how we have been instructed to live in Yahushai, but yet you're eating of this Passover. What that's doing, I'll read this in the NLT. I like the wording there. So anyone who eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord unworthily is guilty of sinning against the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. So before you partake of this Passover, you have to examine yourself and make sure you're right in spirit. Now, it's not, if you're coming to the Passover thinking of it as a meal, like like some people say, a lamb dinner, you're cooked. All right, you're not considering what it actually means to be partaking of the body and blood of Yahushai symbolically. NLT, that is why you should examine yourself before eating the bread and drinking the cup. For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For if you eat the bread or drink the cup without honor, that's the wine, or without honoring the body of Yahushai, you are eating and drinking God's judgment upon yourself, because ultimately you're unworthy. So the significance of being a part of Yahushai will not apply to you. All right, you may be eating of it, but you're not actually going to be considered as part of the body of Yahushai, but rather you're going to be like a trespasser. And then the Lord is going to bring judgment upon you. For this cause, many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. And Paul is saying, because a lot of you were eating of the Passover unworthily, a lot of you ended up, sick. Some of you weak, right, with infirmities, and some of you even dead, because you were drinking damnation onto yourself. You were eating and drinking damnation onto yourself. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. See, if you were to self-examine and make sure you're doing the right things in the spirit, then the Lord wouldn't have to judge you like this. For when we are judged, we are chastened of the Lord, but we should not be condemned with the world, or that we should not be condemned with the world. So when the Lord, brings judgment upon, a believer, if you are of his elect, of his chosen, really is a chastening, it's a correction. And that correction is needful so that you don't end up actually getting condemned with the world. When you do something wrong, you're corrected so you don't do it again, and you do what's right. Because if you keep doing what's wrong, then you'll be judged with the world. Wherefore, my brethren, when ye come together to eat, tarry one for another. Don't, this person comes in here and immediately, whoa, he finishes everything. It's like this individualistic mindset. And that's not the spirit to be in. Then what's the point of gathering? NLT, so my dear brothers and sisters, when you gather for the Lord's Supper, wait for each other. And if any man hunger, let him eat at home, that ye come not together unto condemnation. And the rest will I set in order when I come. NLT, if you are really hungry, eat at home, so you won't bring judgment upon yourselves when you meet together. I'll give you instructions about the other matters after I arrive. And that brings us to the end of the book of 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Bracha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.